The pandemic has affected me and changed me in many different ways. And I'm always the kind of guy that likes to look at the silver lining in things. I don't focus on the negative. But one of the things that I would like to highlight in the changes that came from the pandemic is that you learn how to be more comfortable with yourself and learn how to get acquainted with yourself. I was somebody that was always, rushing out of my house and trying to meet my homies and just trying to be around people. I'm extroverted like that, and but the pandemic taught me how to live with myself and be comfortable with myself, and that kind of brought like in almost like a spiritual sense, a type of calm, cool collectedness that I've never had before. And it brought me a lot closer to my family as well, which is something that I'm very grateful for. And it taught me how to be a lot more independent with my art as well, because as an artist, a lot of my job requires me to travel and meet people from other countries and link up with the guys, go to the studio and cook up some stuff. But now that we couldn't have that, kind of had to figure out a whole new way to work from home and make stuff happen from home. And I feel like that is a whole new skill set that not just me, but everybody across the board, whatever their occupation is, I think everybody has picked up as a skill set. And I would like to focus on these things as the silver lining that the pandemic has brought us all. My spirituality has evolved in so many different ways. Sometimes it really does take a pandemic for you to realize some things, um, especially when you're always on go mode, always trying to create, always trying to get shit popping. Like you can't really get a pause button uh, to make you stop and reflect and look at the surroundings, smell the flowers in your garden type of vibe. Like this was the biggest pause button of my life, and it made me think of things that I wouldn't usually think of. The last 3 years, ever since my career started, it has always been, okay, what do I got to do next? Okay, where do I got to be at next? Who I got to meet next? It's always just constantly being on a roll. And I mean, it's all good for the hustle and for the grind, but you truly do overlook what's really at stake here. I never really cared for my health, cared for my family, cared for my friends in this way. And I am very grateful that, in a weird sense, the pandemic brought these kind of introspective thoughts and introspective changes that came to my life. And I feel that now spiritually I'm a much stronger person. Like all of us, right? Surviving 2020, all of us coming to this point right here. A lot of us are still struggling and suffering around the world, but emotionally and spiritually, I feel that we are all way stronger than before. And that's just how I feel, man. It's a great feeling. The pandemic has impacted my creativity in several ways. One of the key periods I'd like to highlight is 2020, when we got the news that the whole world was basically going into shutdown mode. That was one of the biggest roadblocks, the biggest creative humps that I've ever had. Like, it's so tough trying to stay inspired and trying to stay in the mode of creating when you know for a fact that the world is in a rough place. And it took many months trying to get over that hump. And I'm still, to this point, I'm not sure if I've fully come over it or fully gotten over that hump yet. But what I feel these days is that I've I've become accustomed to the world that we're living in, and I guess we have all kind of developed our own coping mechanism with the situation, right? Like we've all kind of figured out how to get shit done regardless of the situation. Like we've all formed our own strategies, put our own new strategies in place on how to keep the boat afloat, because uh, like I'm an artist, a lot of my income was dependent on the live shows. Now you remove that, now we got to figure out how to keep food on the table. So like a whole different way of looking at the career, everything started to change, right? So that that's where we're at right now. 2020 was the year where we ran out of the excuses. We came up with all the excuses. Oh shit, this and that. Oh man, like I'm feeling fucked up because of this and that, right? But we ran through all the excuses, and 2021 is the year where I feel that we're all kind of looking forward and keeping our heads up, or at least trying to keep our heads up and trying to get stuff done. And we are actively trying not to give any excuses. And that's just what I feel when it comes to the shift in energy right now. But going through 2020 has definitely been a valuable thing to arrive at this headspace. The biggest lesson that I got from the pandemic is to never take anything for granted. You know, I have family out here living in India, and they're all going through a rough time right now, man. And my family moved from South India to Singapore, and there's so many family members back in South India that are still going through some of the roughest times in their lives, you know. And I got my family here. We're trying our best to keep safe, but life is so unpredictable. The world is in such an unpredictable state right now. And I know we've always talked about not taking things for granted as like a value, right? We always talk about these things, but never like now. You know what I mean? Now is a time where every day we are getting hit in the face with news that are just so heartbreaking and just so negative and so much pain around the world. And now is the time for us to remind one another, remind the folks around us to like never take anything for granted and to always take stock of all the blessings that you have, you know. Now is the time for us to remind one another that our blessings can't go unacknowledged, man. And that is one thing that I would like to talk about always. I try my best to remind my family members, my friends, you know, try to keep the energy up, you know, get in that high vibrational headspace of being grateful, being thankful for what we have, and also keeping all the people that are suffering around the world in our prayers, and moving one day at a time.